The dorm room door slammed shut, and I froze, my heart pounding like it was trying to break free. Ezra stood there, his blonde curls wild from the autumn wind. His eyes locked on mine with an intensity I'd never seen before. In that split second, I knew something was about to change, something I wasn't ready for. My name's Julian Carter, a sophomore at Crestwood University in upstate New York, where the leaves turn fire red and the air smells like possibility. Ezra Flynn, my best friend since we were scrawny kids trading Pokemon cards in middle school, had always been the one constant in my chaotic life. We'd survived braces, bad haircuts, and the awkward hell of high school together. Now, sharing a dorm room, we were supposed to be conquering college art classes for me, political science for him, and late-night pizza runs for both of us. But lately, something had shifted. His glances lingered too long. His laughs felt too warm, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the air between us was charged with something neither of us dared to name. That October evening, the campus was alive with the buzz of midterms and homecoming prep. I was sprawled on my bed, sketching a half-finished portrait of Ezra, his sharp jawline, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. I hadn't shown him the drawing. It felt too personal, like exposing a piece of my soul I wasn't ready to share. The door burst open, and there he was, breathless, his red hoodie slightly damp from the drizzle outside. "Jules, you won't believe what happened," he said, his voice a mix of excitement and something heavier, something that made my stomach twist. He tossed his backpack onto the floor and collapsed onto my bed, inches from me. The mattress dipped, and his knee brushed mine, sending a jolt through me I tried to ignore. "What's up?" I asked, closing my sketchbook a little too quickly. My voice sounded steady, but my pulse wasn't. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at the ceiling, his chest rising and falling like he was wrestling with something big. I ran into Marcus at the student union," he finally said. Marcus was his debate team rival, all charm and sharp wit, the kind of guy who could talk his way out of anything. He asked me out. Like, on a date. My heart stopped. I knew Ezra was B had told me last year, casual as if he were mentioning a new favorite band. I'd nodded, said it was cool, and we'd moved on. But hearing this now, imagining him with someone else, hit me like a punch I didn't see coming. "Oh," I managed, my voice flat. "What did you say?" Ezra turned his head, his blue eyes searching mine. I said no. But it got me thinking. He sat up, leaning closer, and the space between us shrank to nothing. "Jules, why haven't we ever talked about us?" The word us hung in the air, heavy and electric. I wanted to laugh it off, to crack a joke like I always did, but my throat was tight, and my sketchbook felt like it was burning a hole in my lap. "What do you mean, us?" I asked, though I knew exactly what he meant. I'd felt it too, the late-night talks that went too deep, the way his hand lingered on my shoulder, the way my heart raced when he said my name. He didn't answer with words. Instead, he leaned forward, his breath warm against my cheek, and kissed me. It was soft, tentative, but it shattered everything I thought I knew about us. My best friend, the guy I'd shared every secret with, had just crossed a line we'd never dared to touch. And I kissed him back, my hands finding his face, because in that moment, I didn't care about the consequences. When we pulled apart, his eyes were wide, like he couldn't believe what he'd done. "Jules, I'm sorry," he started, but I cut him off. Don't say you're sorry." My voice was shaky, but I meant it. I wasn't sorry. I was terrified, exhilarated, and completely lost, but I wasn't sorry. The next few days were a blur. We didn't talk about the kiss, but it was there in every glance, Every brush of our hands as we passed the coffee pot or fought over the last slice of pizza. The dorm room, once a safe haven, felt like a pressure cooker. I couldn't focus on my art assignments. Every sketch turned into Ezra's face, his curls, his lips. He was everywhere, and I didn't know how to handle it. On Friday, we ended up at a campus bonfire, the air thick with smoke and laughter. Ezra was quieter than usual, sticking close to me instead of working the crowd like he normally did. The firelight danced on his face, and I couldn't stop staring. "You okay?" I asked, nudging him. He nodded, but his eyes said otherwise. "I keep thinking about, you know." He lowered his voice, even though the crowd was too loud to hear us. "I don't want to mess this up, Jules. You're my best friend." The words stung, but they also lit something inside me. "You're not messing anything up," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But we need to figure out what this is." He looked at me, and for a moment, the world was just us two guys standing too close, trying to navigate a feeling bigger than either of us could handle. The fire crackled, and someone shouted in the distance. But all I could hear was my own heartbeat and the unspoken question, what happens now? The days after the bonfire felt like walking a tightrope. Every moment with Ezra was charged, like we were both waiting for the other to make the next move. But neither of us did, and the silence was louder than any words could have been. I threw myself into my art, hoping it would ground me. My latest project was a series of charcoal sketches for my portfolio class, meant to capture raw human connection. Naturally, every piece ended up being about Ezra's hands, the curve of his neck, the way his eyes lit up when he laughed. My professor, Ms. Delgado, raised an eyebrow at my work during critique. "Julian, there's a story here," she said, her voice kind but probing. "Who's this muse of yours?" I mumbled something about imagination and changed the subject, but her words stuck. Ezra wasn't just my muse. He was my everything, and that scared me to death. Meanwhile, Ezra was drowning in his own chaos. His poli-sci classes were brutal, and the debate team was gearing up for a regional competition. I'd catch him pacing our dorm room, muttering arguments to himself, his hands tugging at his curls. But even in his stress, he'd shoot me these Luke Shaft smiles that made my chest ache. I wanted to ask him about the kiss, about what it meant, but every time I opened my mouth, fear clamped it shut. What if he regretted it? What if I'd misread everything? One night, I came back from the art studio to find him sprawled on the floor, surrounded by flashcards and empty energy drink cans. "You look like a disaster," I said, dropping my bag. Says the guy with charcoal on his face. He shot back, grinning. But his smile faded fast. "Jules, can we talk?" My stomach dropped. "Sure," I said, sitting cross-legged on the floor across from him. The room felt too small, the air too thick. He took a deep breath, like he was about to jump off a cliff. "That kiss, I can't stop thinking about it. About you." His voice cracked, and he looked away, his fingers twisting a flashcard into a crumpled mess. "I've liked you for a long time, Jules. Liked you. But you're my best friend, and I didn't want to ruin that." I stared at him, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. "Ezra, I didn't know how to finish that sentence. I'd spent so long burying my feelings, convincing myself they were just friendship, that hearing him say it out loud felt like the world tilting. "I feel it too," I finally admitted, my voice barely audible. "But I'm scared. What if this changes everything?" "It already has," he said softly, his eyes locking onto mine. "But maybe that's not a bad thing." We didn't kiss again that night, but we talked for hours. About how he'd realized he was into guys in high school, but never acted on it. About how I'd always felt something for him, but didn't have the words until now. It was raw, messy, and terrifying, but it felt like a weight lifting off my chest. The next week, things got complicated. Ezra's debate team had a practice match, and Marcus, the guy who'd asked him out, was there, all smirks and confidence. I tagged along to watch, mostly to support Ezra, but part of me was curious. Marcus was everything I wasn't polished, outgoing, the kind of guy who owned every room he walked into. When he shook Ezra's hand after the match, lingering a little too long, I felt a hot spike of jealousy I hadn't expected. "You okay?" Ezra asked later, as we walked back to the dorm. The campus was quiet, the streetlights casting long shadows. "Yeah," I lied, shoving my hands in my pockets. Marcus seems like he's still into you." Ezra stopped walking, turning to face me. "Jules." I told him no. I meant it. He stepped closer, his voice low. "I want you." "Okay." I nodded, but doubt gnawed at me. Ezra was magnetic, the kind of person everyone wanted a piece of. What if I wasn't enough? What if this thing between us, whatever it was, crashed and burned, taking our friendship with it? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars we'd stuck on the ceiling freshman year, and wondered if I was brave enough to take this leap. Ezra was asleep across the room, his breathing steady, and I wanted nothing more than to crawl into his bed and hold him. But fear kept me rooted, and I hated myself for it. The doubt didn't let up. Every time Ezra smiled at me, every time his hand brushed mine, I felt a rush of warmth and a stab of fear. What were we doing? Were we dating now? Just testing the waters? The uncertainty was driving me insane, but I couldn't bring myself to ask for clarity. Not yet. Midterms hit, and the campus turned into a pressure cooker. I was buried in my art portfolio, while Ezra was neck-deep in debate prep. We barely saw each other outside the dorm, but when we did, the tension was palpable. One night, he came back late, exhausted, and flopped onto my bed instead of his own. "I'm gonna fail this comp," he mumbled, his face half buried in my pillow. "You're not gonna fail," I said, sitting beside him. "You're Ezra Flynn, debate god." He chuckled, but it was hollow. "I'm not a god, Jules. I'm a mess." He rolled onto his side, looking up at me. "Can I just stay here for a bit?" My heart skipped. "Yeah, of course." I lay down next to him, our shoulders touching, and for a while, we just stayed like that, the world outside our dorm room fading away. It felt so right, but so fragile, like one wrong move could shatter it. The next day, things took a turn. I was in the art studio, working on a new piece, a chaotic swirl of colors meant to capture the storm in my head when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Lila, a friend from my drawing class. "Heard something about Ezra and Marcus. You okay?" Attached was a blurry photo from the student union, Ezra and Marcus, heads close, laughing over coffee. My stomach churned. I told myself it was nothing. Ezra had said he wasn't interested in Marcus, but the image burned into my brain. I didn't respond to Lila. Instead, I threw myself into my painting, smearing reds and blacks until my hands were stained and my chest ached. When I got back to the dorm, Ezra was there, reading on his bed. "Hey," he said, looking up with a smile. "How's the masterpiece coming?" I wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but the words stuck. "Fine," I said, tossing my bag down. "Saw you and Marcus today. Looked cozy." His smile faltered. "What?" We were just grabbing coffee after practice. It's not. It's fine. I cut him off, hating how sharp my voice sounded. I don't know what we're doing. Ezra, are we together? Are we just friends who kiss sometimes? I need to know. He stood, crossing the room to me. Jules, I told you I want you. Marcus is just a friend. I swear. His hand cupped my cheek, and I wanted to believe him, but the fear was louder. Then why does it feel like I'm losing you? I whispered, my voice breaking. You're not, he said fiercely. I'm right here. He kissed me then, harder than before, like he was trying to prove it. I kissed him back, desperate to hold on to whatever this was, but the doubt lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake. The next few days were a dance of avoidance. I buried myself in my art, while Ezra threw himself into debate prep. We were polite, friendly even, but the ease we'd always had was gone. I hated it. I hated how one kiss had turned our friendship into a minefield. Then came the debate competition. I went to support Ezra, sitting in the back of the auditorium, my sketchbook open but untouched. He was incredible up there, all fire and passion, dismantling his opponent's arguments with ease. Marcus was there too, clapping louder than anyone when Ezra's team won. I saw them hug afterward, and the jealousy flared again, hot and ugly. After the match, Ezra found me outside, his face flushed with victory. You came, he said, grinning. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. You were amazing. He stepped closer, his voice low. Jules, I don't want anyone else. Just you. Can we please figure this out together? I wanted to say yes, to let go of the fear, but all I could do was nod. The truth was, I didn't know how to be us without losing myself for him. Figuring it out wasn't as simple as Ezra made it sound. The kiss had opened a door, but neither of us knew how to walk through it without tripping. I wanted him, God. I wanted him, but the fear of losing our friendship, of screwing this up, was a weight I couldn't shake. We started small, testing the waters. A coffee date at the campus cafe, where we sat across from each other, awkward at first, until Ezra started rambling about his latest debate topic and I teased him for sounding like a politician. It felt like us, but different better, in a way, because now our hands brushed deliberately, and his smile held a promise. Still, I couldn't fully relax. Every time I caught myself falling deeper, that photo of him and Marcus flashed in my mind, a reminder of how easily this could slip away. One evening, we ended up at the campus lake, sitting on a bench under a sky streaked with pink and gold. Ezra was quieter than usual, his fingers tracing patterns on my hand. Jules, he said finally, I know you're scared. I am too. But I don't want to keep pretending this is just friendship. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. What if we crash and burn? What if we lose everything? He turned to face me, his eyes steady. We won't. Because it's us. We've been through too much to let this break us. He leaned in, his lips brushing mine, and this time, I let myself sink into it, letting the fear take a back seat for once. But life doesn't let you stay in those moments. The next day, I got a call from my mom. She'd found one of my sketches, another one of Ezra when she visited last weekend and accidentally looked through my portfolio. Julian, she said, her voice tight, is there something you need to tell me? I froze, my heart in my throat. I wasn't ready to come out. Not to her. Not when I was still figuring it out myself. I mumbled something about it being just art and hung up, but the conversation left me rattled. Ezra noticed. You okay? He asked that night, as we sat on his bed watching a movie on my laptop. The screen glowed, but I wasn't watching. My mom saw one of my sketches. I admitted. Of you. His eyes widened. Oh. And she's asking questions I don't know how to answer. I ran a hand through my hair. Frustrated. I don't even know what I am. Ezra. Gay. Bi. Something else. All I know is I'm crazy about you. And that scares the hell out of me. He took my hand. His grip firm. You don't have to have it all figured out. I didn't either. At first. But I'm here. Okay. We'll figure it out together. His words were a lifeline, but they didn't erase the panic. Coming out to myself was one thing. Coming out to the world, me family, my friends, was a whole other beast. I wasn't sure I was ready for that. The next week, things got messy. Lila, my art class friend, cornered me after class. So, you and Ezra, she said, smirking. Spill. I froze. There's nothing to spill. She raised an eyebrow. Come on, Julian. I've seen the way you look at him. And those sketches. They're practically love letters. She wasn't wrong, but hearing it out loud made my chest tighten. Word was spreading, and I hadn't even decided what we were yet. That night, I told Ezra about Lila. He laughed, but there was an edge to it. Guess we're not exactly subtle. Huh? He said. You okay with people knowing? I don't know. I admitted. I want to be. But it's a lot. He nodded, his face softening. We'll go at your pace, Jules. No pressure. But I could see the hurt in his eyes, the fear that I might pull back. And part of me wanted to for his sake. For mine. For the safety of what we'd always been. But another part, the louder part, wanted to hold on and never let go. By the end of the week, I made a decision. I asked Ezra to meet me at the art studio after hours. When he walked in, I showed him the sketch I'd been working on, a portrait of us. Our hands intertwined, our faces close, a mix of hope and fear in our eyes. This is us, I said, my voice shaking. This is what I want. He stared at the sketch, then at me, and for the first time in days, he smiled a real, unguarded smile. Then let's do this, he said, and pulled me into a kiss that felt like a promise. Doing this meant facing the world, and that was scarier than I'd expected. Ezra and I were officially together now, but every step felt like a leap. Holding hands on campus, stealing kisses in the library, even just calling him my boyfriend, it was thrilling and terrifying all at once. The first test came at a party thrown by Ezra's debate team. We walked in together, his arm around my shoulders, and I felt every eye on us. Most people were cool smiles, nods, a few about time comments. But Marcus was there, and his smirk made my skin crawl. So, you two are a thing now? He asked, his tone just shy of mocking. Yeah, Ezra said, his voice steady. We are. He squeezed my hand, and I forced a smile, but Marcus's gaze lingered, like he was sizing us up. Later, as we danced to some overplayed pop song, Ezra leaned in close. Ignore him, he whispered. He's just jealous. I laughed, but the unease stayed. Marcus wasn't the only one watching. I caught whispers, glances, and the occasional raised eyebrow. Crestwood was progressive, but not everyone was on board with two guys dancing like we were. I hated how much it got to me. Back at the dorm, I finally let it out. Does it bother you? I asked Ezra, pacing the room. The way people look at us. He shrugged, but his jaw was tight. Sometimes. But I'd rather deal with that than hide how I feel about you. He pulled me onto the bed, wrapping his arms around me. We're worth it, Jules. I wanted to believe him, but the world felt bigger and harsher now. My mom called again, asking about the sketch, and this time, I couldn't dodge her. "Julian, are you with someone?" she asked, her voice careful. I took a deep breath. "Yeah, Mom. I'm with Ezra." The silence on the other end was deafening, but when she finally spoke, it was soft. "Okay. I need some time to process this." It wasn't rejection, but it wasn't acceptance either. I hung up feeling like I'd lost something, even if I wasn't sure what. Ezra was my rock through it all. He'd hold me when I overthought, make me laugh when I spiraled, and kiss me when words weren't enough. But the pressure kept building. Rumors spread, some harmless, some cruel. One day, I found "fag" scrawled on my sketchbook in the art studio. I scrubbed it off before Ezra could see, but it left a mark on me, one I couldn't erase. I started pulling back, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know how to carry the weight. Ezra noticed. "Talk to me, Jules," he said one night, his voice raw. "Don't shut me out." "I'm trying," I said, tears stinging my eyes. It's hard. I didn't expect it to be this hard." He took my face in his hands. "I know. But we're in this together. Okay? You and me." I nodded, but the fear was still there, gnawing at the edges. I loved him, God. I loved him, but love didn't make the world kind. It didn't stop the whispers or the judgment. And it didn't stop me from wondering if I was strong enough for this. The breaking point came at the end of the semester. Ezra's debate team was heading to a national competition, and he asked me to come. "It's in Boston," he said, his eyes bright. "We could make a weekend of it. Just us." I wanted to say yes, but the thought of being out in a new city, away from the semi-safety of campus, froze me. "I don't know, Ezra," I said. "Maybe it's too soon." His face fell, and for the first time, I saw real hurt in his eyes. "Too soon for what?" "For us." He stepped back, his voice shaking. "Jules, I'm all in. Are you?" The question hung between us, sharp and unforgiving. I didn't have an answer, not one he deserved. Anyway, and as he walked out of the dorm, leaving me alone with my fear, I realized I might have just pushed away the one person who mattered most. Ezra didn't come back to the dorm that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying our fight, if you could even call it that. It wasn't anger. It was worse. It was disappointment, and I'd put it there. By morning, I was a wreck, my sketchbook filled with frantic, messy lines that mirrored the chaos in my head. I found him at the cafe, nursing a coffee and staring out the window. "Ezra," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "I'm sorry." He looked at me, his eyes tired. "For what, Jules? For not being ready? Or for making me feel like I'm in this alone?" "Both," I admitted, my voice cracking. "I'm scared. Okay. I love you, but I don't know how to do this. The world's not exactly rolling out the red carpet for us." He leaned forward, his voice low but fierce. "I know it's not. But I'd rather face that with you than pretend this doesn't exist. I can't go back to just being friends, Jules. Not after this." His words hit hard, because they were true. There was no going back. The kiss had changed everything, and pretending otherwise was a lie neither of us could live with. "I don't want to go back," I said finally. I need time. And I need you to not give up on me." He reached across the table, taking my hand. "I'm not giving up. But you gotta meet me halfway." I nodded, squeezing his hand. "Deal," It wasn't a fix, but it was a start. And for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. We spent the next week rebuilding. Small steps, holding hands in public, ignoring the stares, telling a few close friends about us. Lila was thrilled, throwing her arms around us both. "You guys are adorable," she said, and for once, I didn't flinch at the attention. My mom called again, and this time, she asked about Ezra, her voice cautious but curious. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The Boston trip loomed closer, and I decided to go. Not just for Ezra, but for us. The night before we left, I showed him a new sketch, the two of us by the lake, our hands linked, the sunset behind us. "This is what I want," I said, echoing my words from the art studio. "You and me, no matter what." He smiled, pulling me into a hug. "Then let's make it happen." Boston was a whirlwind. The debate competition was intense, and Ezra was in his element, commanding the stage with a fire that made me proud and a little weak in the knees. I sketched him from the audience, capturing the way he moved, the way he believed in every word he said. When his team won, he ran to me, kissing me in front of everyone. For once, I didn't care who was watching. We spent the rest of the weekend exploring the city, wandering through bookstores, eating overpriced tacos, stealing kisses in alleyways. It felt like a bubble, a world where we could just be us. But reality was waiting, and I knew we'd have to face it eventually. Back on campus, the rumors had died down, but the challenges didn't. A professor made a snide comment about distractions during my portfolio review, and I knew he meant Ezra. I brushed it off, but it stung. Ezra faced his own battles, Marcus spreading whispers that Ezra only won debates because of connections. It was petty, but it got under his skin. Through it all, we held on. Late nights in the dorm, talking about everything and nothing. Kisses that felt like promises. Sketches that poured out my heart. We were learning how to be us, not just as friends, but as something more, something worth fighting for. The semester ended, and with it came a sense of clarity. Ezra and I weren't perfect, we argued. We doubted. We stumbled, but we were real. And that was enough. Winter break meant going home. And for me, that meant facing my family. I told my mom about Ezra, but telling my dad and my older brother, Nate, was a different story. We sat around the dining table on Christmas Eve, the air thick with tension. "So, Ezra's your boyfriend?" Nate asked, his tone more curious than judgmental. "Yeah," I said, my heart pounding. "He is." Dad didn't say much, just nodded. But later, he pulled me aside. "You're happy?" he asked. "More than I've ever been," I said, and I meant it. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Then that's what matters." It wasn't a grand speech, but it was enough. My family wasn't perfect, but they were trying, and so was I. Back at Crestwood, the new semester brought new challenges. Ezra and I were more open, now holding hands in the quad, kissing goodbye outside the lecture hall. The stares didn't stop, but they bothered me less. We built something stronger than the judgment, something that could weather the whispers and the doubts. My art took on a new life. My final portfolio was a series of sketches and paintings about us, moments of joy, fear, love, all raw and unfiltered. MS. Delgado called it my best work yet, and when I showed it to Ezra, he cried. "This is us," he said, echoing my words from months ago. "This is everything." The turning point came at the spring art show. I'd entered my portfolio, and the gallery was packed with students, professors, and locals. Ezra stood beside me, his hand in mine, as people walked through, whispering about my work. One paisea painting of our first kiss. All bold colors and raw emotion drew the most attention. A woman I didn't know approached me, her eyes misty. "This reminds me of my wife and me," she said. "Thank you for capturing what it feels like to love against the odds." Her words hit me hard. This wasn't just about me and Ezra. It was about every person who'd ever had to fight for their love. I squeezed Ezra's hand, and he squeezed back, his smile saying everything I needed to hear. That night, we sat on the roof of our dorm, the campus sprawling below us. The air was cool, the stars bright, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged not just to Ezra, but to myself. "I love you," I said, the words coming easier now. "I love you too," he said, kissing me softly. "Always will." We didn't have all the answers. The world was still messy, still judgmental, still hard. But we had each other, and that was enough. One kiss had changed everything: our friendship, our futures, our hearts. And as I leaned against him, watching the stars, I knew we'd keep fighting, keep loving, keep being us. Forever.